Jesus Christ was murdered. Jesus Christ was murdered. He was tortured to death, and his body was put out for public display. And the people who did this to him are still in power. And I think 2,000 years has been enough time for these people to be tormenting us, and it's going to be over soon. And I talk with direct knowledge. But the real problem, of course, is that the Western financial system has been run by a cult, literally a messianic cult that has been trying to kill 90% of humanity and enslave the rest. This is the actual factual truth. They seized control of the central banking machinery in the West, and they've been, carrying out this insane agenda, and they've been doing it for 400 years. And by contrast, in the West, you have these Satan-worshipping oligarchs who just want to know how much they can take from everybody else and couldn't care less. And these people are now coming out. So Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, just came out and said, Holy Talmud. She worships the Holy Talmud. Well, the Talmud says that all other human beings are cattle. You can kill them, you can lie to them, you can eat them. It doesn't matter because they're not humans. They're just servants, subhuman servants. And they're coming out now and saying it. So, what's going to happen in the West is that there's going to have to be some kind of a reckoning. And it is happening behind the scenes. The Russian government provided the Five Eyes with very detailed intelligence, that 65,000 Ukrainians were kidnapped, tortured, and killed. Okay, this is not something on the internet. This is the Russian government providing factual proof to the Five Eyes intelligence community. And this means that action is being taken behind the scenes. So it's just a matter of time before this time business blows up in the faces of the elites. And the problem is that so many leaders are involved. Keir Starmer, and other, the UK, of course, the Macron, Rothschilds in France, etc. So, the problem is still concentrated at the top. And then once the Bank of Canada can take that up the chain of command. And as far as I can tell, what's going to happen is it's going to lead to the Agnelli family and the French Rothschild families, who are using a fake King Charles and a fake Pope to keep the signing rights on the magic money machine of the central banks. And we're going to that they finance this project. And if they don't, we will kinetically remove them. That's what the Five Eyes are saying. They'll send in James Bond types. And we'll probably end up with some Chabad at the top, thinking that we'll have to clean out these people who still think that they're going to kill 90% of humanity and then bring on their Messiah. Okay, this is nonsense. And we'll have to physically remove these people from all power. But this will be a way that we can forensically trace the problem to its top and then come up with a solution so that the West does not become, to China, which is the case. And there's more and more evidence of this. We now, for example, found out that Meta or Facebook has been providing detailed Americans to the Chinese, as you can see in this video here.
I want to just be clear about this. Here in this document, Facebook is talking about making Chinese user data available to the Chinese government because they're going to store that data in China. Is that correct?
Correct.
We would like to draw everyone's attention to this side strip. It was noted by a Swiss textile expert that this right here is a 1st century style stitching pattern. This is her exact quote. There have been attempts to date the shroud, but the style of sewing is the biggest clue. It belongs firmly to a style seen in the 1st century AD or before. But this side starts here and it goes from one end of the cloth to the other, all the way 14 feet. It's an uneven cut. At some points, it'll be 2 inches from here to here. At other points, it will be 3 inches. But it appears to be a side strip that was cut in haste. That said, we're going to fold this cloth over the body and show you why they cut this off. And they cut it off when? During the burial. So let's do that right now. I'm going to grab this end. Okay, I have now folded the cloth over the body. How are they going to secure this body? They're going to have to put strips around the shroud to hold the body in. The body of Jesus was not put in the tomb like that. They needed a strip of linen to wrap around the shroud, so they cut it. Cut it with a knife and just cut right along a strip like this. That's one of the linen strips they used to wrap around the shroud. Just using common sense, a common sense approach to how this body would be wrapped would be like that. So this is a close approximation to how the body of Jesus would have been wrapped. The linen clothes, as John called them, the linen grave clothes of Jesus. In the Gospel of John, he mentions, and then they wound the body in the linen clothes. He's talking about when they wound this strip around to hold the body in. As we could see, Jesus was buried in a long sheet of linen, and after the cloth was folded over the body, strips of linen were used to hold the body in the shroud. So a Jewish burial does require strips of linen. Strips of linen would have also been used to go around the hands and feet. But we get the basic idea. And as we can see, the one strip of linen will go around the chin and then to the middle of the body and to the feet. Just that one 14-foot strip. While we have this opportunity, and the body of Jesus is wrapped in this long sheet of fine linen, as it was nearly years ago. And the difference is the body of Jesus was not lying flat. The knees were raised and the upper torso was leaning forward at an angle exactly as you would see in a photo of the Garden Tomb, like the one we're looking at right now, that angled board, that angled headboard. There is a cloth that is mentioned in the Gospel of John 20 verse 7. And the napkin that was about his head was not lying with the linen clothes, the grave clothes. The shroud of TURIN were the grave clothes of Jesus, was not lying with the linen clothes, but was wrapped together, folded by itself. What John was referring to was this cloth that was put around the head of Jesus while he was on the cross and was removed during the burial. And this cloth is just covered in blood and fluid from the lungs. So when they removed it from Jesus, when they removed this cloth from his head, it was just covered in blood like this. And then they folded it. They folded it together, and when they did that, the bloodstains made an impression on the other side. As you can see, these bloodstains on this side are a mirror image, because this was just like John said it was. It was folded together in a place by itself. In a previous video, we calculated the odds of the blood on the shroud of TURIN and the headcloth as not being from Jesus was a 1 in 4 billion chance. We did this in the same way that DNA evidence determines the odds of probability and chance of something being a coincidence. But the pure math of this case, of the Shroud of Turin case file, simply gives us the bottom line number. We calculated the math on 4 different match points between the shroud and the headcloth, both with type AB blood, both with myrrh and aloes, both with pollens from a thorn plant from Jerusalem, and both with a rare calcite called travertine aragonite. And the way we did the math, and we purposely downplayed the numbers, we came up with a 1 in 4 billion chance. After the video was posted, someone gave this same information to ChatGPT to see how they would calculate the math, and they came up with the exact same number, a 1 in 4 billion chance. A very improbable event in itself. But ChatGPT stated, the likelihood that the Shroud of Turin does not belong to Jesus, based on current evidence and scientific studies, is approximately 1 in 4 billion. And again, these are the variables that we use to determine the math. Both the shroud and the headcloth both have type AB blood. They both contain myrrh and aloes. They both contain pollens from a thorn plant from Jerusalem, and they both contain a rare calcite called travertine aragonite. ChatGPT states, to determine the most accurate odds that the Shroud of Turin is not related to Jesus of Nazareth, we need to be cautious in our assumptions, base estimates on available scientific evidence, and in uncertainties. Evidence and probabilities, type AB blood, modern global prevalence, 4%. Given that this blood type is not exceedingly rare in this region, probability is a 1 in 8 chance. We calculated this at 1 in 20. Number 2, presence of myrrh and aloes. Spices in Jewish burial practices were common, but myrrh and aloes together are specifically mentioned in John 19:39 through 40. These were expensive and likely reserved for prominent or wealthy individuals. While plausible in other high-status burials, it's not the norm. Probability 1 in 50. We calculated this at 1 in 100. Number 3, pollens from plants specific to Jerusalem springtime have been identified on the shroud. This narrows its geographical and seasonal origin. The likelihood of these pollens occurring outside of Jerusalem or being artificially added is very low. Probability 1 in 1,000. We calculated this at 1 in 500. Number 4, rare calcite from the Damascus Gate. The travertine aragonite found on the shroud is geologically specific to tombs near the Damascus Gate in Jerusalem. Chance of this mineral found from a different location, probability 1 in 10,000. We calculated this at 1 in 200. Combined probability. If we assume independence between these factors, though slight interdependence could exist, the odds of all these features coinciding randomly on a cloth not associated with Jesus are 1 in 40 billion chance. Adjustments for overlapping evidence, interdependence. Certain evidence, like the calcite and pollen, both point to Jerusalem and may slightly overlap in their contribution to the geographical identification. To account for this, we adjust the result conservatively by a factor of 10 to prevent overestimation. Adjusted odds, 1 in 4 billion chance. The likelihood that the Shroud of Turin does not belong to Jesus based on current evidence and scientific studies is approximately 1 in 4 billion. This reflects a convergence of highly specific and rare factors. Our conclusion was the same, exactly the same as ChatGPT, 1 in 4 billion chance, even though in every match point, our calculated odds were different. Even though we both use completely different numbers and completely different ways of arriving at the odds of probability and chance, we both arrived at the same figure. The chance of that being coincidental in itself is extremely improbable. But think this over carefully. A 1 in 4 billion chance. There's a 1 in 4 billion chance that these match points between the Shroud of Turin and the headcloth are coincidental. That it's all just an incredible coincidence. Well, the math says there's a 99.9% chance that it's not coincidental, that these are not coincidental matches, that this is the blood of Jesus. And to bet against that, to bet against those odds, that person would stand a 99.9% chance of being wrong. The consequences of being wrong, in this case, potentially involve being separated from light for all eternity, an extremely serious consequence. To bet against odds of 1 in 4 billion chance and go with the underdog bet, basically a person saying, you know, there's a 1 in 4 billion chance that I'm right, but I'm gonna gamble with eternity on that one. I'm gonna gamble with all eternity at stake here and go with the extreme underdog bet on that. I like my odds in this. I feel confident with the bet that I placed. Think anyone could say that? I don't think so. No intelligent person of sound mind would ever bet against this. We ask that you carefully consider the math evidence before doing that, before dismissing Jesus as being the risen Messiah.